For the county, and I drive the main road, searching in the sun for another overload. I hear you singing in the wire, I can hear you through the whine. Wichita lineman is still on the line. I know I need a small vacation, but it don't look like rain. And if it snows, that stretch down south won't ever stand the strain. And I need you more than want you, and I want you for all time. And the Wichita lineman is still on the line. I need you more than want you, and I want you for all time. And the Wichita lineman is still on the line. Still on the
Oh, I thought I did turn on the sound. Yeah, that's a real boomer move. Sorry, Nick. Yeah, so anyway, we're going to talk about censorship today. So I guess you didn't hear me talking all that smack about teachers. So, sorry to all the teachers out there that you're such failures and America is falling apart because of you, except for Larry's wife, because I don't want to lose a subscriber. But other than that, yeah, I'm sorry for you guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we're going to talk about Mr. Jalix Owens and Fuis Laracan, and they got banned today from Facebook. And some would say that Facebook did them a favor because, first of all, Facebook sucks, and second of all, it gives us a reason. It's a mission because no matter what you think about these two, I think Louis Farrakhan is literally a piece of shit. I mean, he's a scam artist. I was arguing with people about Louis Farrakhan earlier today. I was like, yeah, this guy's one of the biggest clowns in America. And it's good that his videos were on, or still are on YouTube, but, for that matter on Facebook, so that you can look at all the ridiculous nonsense that he talks about, with Xenu and the world being 66 trillion years old and stuff like that. It's like ridiculous already. The guy is now a Scientologist. By the way, if you're a Scientologist, how can you also be a Muslim? It doesn't compute. I'm sorry, I have to be an NPC about that. It doesn't compute. Then on the other hand, you have Alex Jones, who I've defended to other people, and they say, how could you like this guy? Alex Jones, he's such a clown. He's such a he's basically a performance artist. He's a liar or whatever. And, many of these people are themselves liars. And if you actually watch InfoWars, it's news it's better news than the news that you'll probably get on most networks. I'd have to say I don't watch InfoWars that often, unfortunately, just because, I guess if I did, I'd probably be limited in what I watch. I do like tuning in once in a while, and that's why you need all of these sources of information to be out there for the public. So for the few of us that are here, I want to start thinking about what we're going to do concerning this horrible predicament that our country is in, which is this gradually closing cube of censorship and basically thought policing by our corporations and media and in fact people in the government cheerleading them on. It really is. It's like they've decided that they're not going to hide it anymore. They're openly against the freedom of people to choose what they're going to watch and how they're going to do it. And I think it's time. And you see the title. I didn't make this, an unsubjugated or whatever. I didn't title it as part of any series. We need to start doing an anti-censorship warrior movement to counter them. And really, it has to be people expressly in the cause of ending censorship. Now, I know most of you are probably thinking there's already the IDW. There's already, you can pick. There's a few organizations. I'm not talking about organizations. I'm talking about people actually holding anti-censorship rallies around the country. Now, I currently can't start doing that. Of course, you guys know that I'm a 9-to-5er at the moment. But I want you guys to think about, is that a good idea? Or is it not about holding rallies and doing things like that? Because, yeah, people can hold rallies and they can get attention that way. But there's other ways to get attention that are also passive resistance. And I had a thought while I was driving home just like 20 or 30 minutes ago, that the best type of resistance would be to show them exactly how that works. And I would say that an idea that I've had is if people could, if people have this opportunity, okay, it probably doesn't happen very often. But if you're a business owner and you know that there's a Facebook employee that's coming into your store, or a Twitter employee or an Instagram, whatever it is, you should, on principle, refuse them service, saying, well, I don't do business with censors. I don't do business with people who speech police. I don't do business with people who try to decide what other people should think and who has the right to speak in America. And I don't care if it's low-level employees. They should start making the point that if you work for these companies, you're going to be treated the way they treat the rest of the world. You're going to be treated the way that they have decided to deal with ordinary people. You're an ordinary person and you work for Facebook, good. We can treat you the way that Facebook treats us. That's what I would suggest. I don't think it's something that's overly unreasonable. Yes, it is a bit, crass and vindictive, but it's a form of passive resistance. It's the same thing. By the way, the Masterpiece Cake Shop decision, it would it would essentially it would validate what you're talking about. You could, and by the way, you can just say, well, it has nothing to do with Facebook's political views, because I think in for example, in DC, in Washington, D.C., you're not allowed to discriminate based on political view. You would just say, look, I don't agree with their company policy, and therefore they're not welcome in my store. So I think people should do that to Facebook employees. I think that would be a fantastic way for people to really put the screws to these organizations like Facebook, like Instagram. And finally, when look, I know for some people it's not exactly an easy thing. If you have a small business and there's customers that are coming in, it doesn't necessarily help you that you're turning away a paying customer or anything. But in this case, what's it going to take to teach them that they can't just decide what America gets to see? That's not really it's not their purview. In fact, if you think about it, social media was for a while, I don't think originally that's what it was intended for. It was intended for people to get in touch with friends and family from the past that they hadn't seen for many years, and gradually it's sort of morphed into this behemoth of just complete and utter just forcing people to think a certain way, to feel a certain way, discouraging certain ways of behavior, the shaming that goes on Facebook. Yes, for a while Facebook and other forms of social media were used for bullying too. And it's not like I would say that as much as I'm a free speech advocate, I'm not trying to tell people to attack other people on YouTube and go after them or go and harass people. That's the opposite. I'm saying that you should be allowed to go onto these platforms and have a civic engagement with other people on topics that you find are important. This type of censorship, for example, there are issues that are specific to each country where the censorship could take on a different type of use. Okay, Dave McDowell says it was always a CIA experiment. I can believe that for sure. I've heard a lot of good I don't know if I'd call them theories, but good explanations of that belief. So yeah, if you go to Pakistan, for example, the Facebook censorship is used in order to enforce religious dogma. Is that what social media? I'm not talking about what Facebook really wants it to do, but is that what social media was originally supposed to be in your mind? I don't think so. I think it was in order to help people to connect and to be able to, share their thoughts and interact across the world. And I think that's where we're gonna leave off. But yeah, I want you guys to know, Dave is I know that he does artwork. Some pretty graphic artwork, by the way. I think you could call Dave, kind of shock jock, pop artist. I don't know what he'd call himself, but I've seen some of his photos, or not photos, but like the images that he creates, and I don't even know, are they like full-on paintings? Because it's very interesting. The texture is like very good, but it's intended to shock. It's like social commentary in art, and that's really something that I think we can appreciate. That's something that we need. Even sometimes, I mean, I'd look at it, I'd be like, God, that's disgusting. I think he had like he had one painting of Hillary like with her, I think with her bottom off, like her pants off, and Trump was as her genitals. It was pretty funny. It was pretty disgusting, but I mean, Dave says Tom from MySpace misses us. But apparently he's living it up. I mean, he escaped from the problem with people like Zuckerberg. The problem with these tech billionaires is they never know when enough's enough, and they become megalomaniacs. Yeah, the Facebook guy, his platform went belly up, but he's still super rich, and he knows how to be content with what he has. And Mark Zuckerberg doesn't. He thinks that his wealth and his power justify his ability to sort of curate what we get to see and who we get to talk to and who gets to be on his. And look, I mean, on a legal sense, as of right now, they are allowed to say who interacts or whatever. But that means, like I said, if you see a Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter employee or whoever it is come into your shop that that they're an employee, I would say you tell them that they can't shop in your store, that you don't support a censorship organization, you won't serve them, they're not welcome, and they can eat somewhere else. If that's the way they want to have it, I mean, what do you guys think of that idea? But I think we do need an anti-censorship warrior movement. There's a new book coming out by a New York Times White House correspondent claiming that Obama took Trump's victory as a personal insult. He watched Dr. Strange to distract himself from election results and blamed Hillary for the loss because of her scripted soulless campaign. So if you're a person who likes Obama, if you're a person who likes Obama, think about it. This guy was so inept and so disappointed in the country that he watched Benedict Cumberbatch movie in order to distract himself from his entire plan falling apart. It says the book was originally released in July 2017, but has been updated with extensive new reporting. And the run-through of Election Day is electrifying. Obama arrogantly thought there was, quote, no way Americans would turn on him, even though Clinton was far from perfect. He likened himself to Michael Corleone in The Godfather and said he was handing power over to somebody who would destroy his legacy. Well, I mean, he was right about something, finally. Obama was cordial to the president-elect in their face-to-face meeting in the White House, in the Oval Office, but in private, Obama called Trump a con man straight out of Huckleberry Finn. Well, Huckleberry Finn was a very good book, and it's being censored in many school districts. So I would take that as a compliment if I was Donald Trump. Obama even likened himself to Michael Corleone in the Godfather movies and said he was handing power over to somebody who would destroy his legacy. As Obama saw it, he almost got out of the White House unscathed, just like the mob boss nearly survived without being whacked. Baker writes that Obama woke up on the morning of November 8th, 2016, convinced he would not be handing the nuclear football over to Donald Trump, the reality TV star he thought was a joke. Obama arrogantly thought there was no way Americans would turn on him, even though Clinton was far from perfect. Obama, I love this comment from Nick's Radio. Obama has more in common with Fredo than Michael. I would say he has, which character would I liken him to in The Godfather? That's a good question. I don't think he belongs in that movie. I mean, Fredo would be, Fredo was like he was the son that was like the incompetent moron, the guy who stood by while Vito was gunned down. That's pretty funny. Baker writes, she was a serious and seasoned professional who had served at the highest levels of government provided mature leadership just as important. She would continue his policies and cement his biggest achievements. His legacy, he felt, was in safe hands. Given that Obama had no formal role in the election, he went to the White House movie theater with his wife, Michelle, and advisor Valerie Jarrett, where they watched Doctor Strange, the superhero movie starring Bennett. I actually want to watch that movie, by the way. I've heard a lot of good reviews about that. I don't know what you guys think. It says here, Busy Phillips looks the same after 20 years. I don't even know who that is. This is what the Daily Mail concerns itself with. Michelle went to bed early, but as Obama... So think about it that way. Michelle Obama went to bed. Okay, the First Lady went to bed rather than watch the election results. So these people did not care. They did not give an S about the future of the country. Okay, actually, I want to ask you guys, put in the chat, should we continue, cussing in the stream, or do you think that it actually holds down the views? And I'll just start using, euphemisms or something. Baker writes, by the end of the evening, the unthinkable had happened. Obama struggled with what the American people had done and thought to himself that they simply could not have decided to replace him with a buffoonish showman whose calling cards had been repeated bankruptcies, serial marriages, and racist dog whistles. At 1 a.m., Obama sent a message to Clinton saying she should concede quickly, which she did. In a phone call to Obama, Clinton said, "I'm sorry for letting you down." Thank you, Hillary, for apologizing to dumbass Obama. Although that's not very fair. I mean, Obama did campaign hard in that election. He actually campaigned harder in that election for Hillary than Hillary did, and she basically screwed him over back in 2008. She'd done everything she could to torpedo his candidacy for a while. Baker writes that despite being cordial in public, he afterwards summoned Rhodes, who told him, Obama tried to keep his cool in the weeks afterward and texted his speechwriter Ben Rhodes, there are more stars in the sky than sand on the earth. We have freighter watchers kind of pissed for some reason. Yeah, I think you guys are against the self-censorship, so that's what I thought it would be. So yeah, I mean, Barack Obama was he basically he thought the whole thing about him being elected president was about him rather than about actually accomplishing things or helping people or not turning over guns to terror groups or screwing with our legal system and spying on people. There are certain things that I guess he didn't understand that the presidency is not about. When you get elected president, I guess this should be stated here if it hasn't been stated before. You don't get elected president just so people can like you. Okay? And I guess if there's any evidence of that, Donald Trump is evidence that being president is not about people liking you. Okay, there's a few days, that I go out and I see things that Donald Trump does, and I don't particularly like them. And that's fine, because it's not his job to be liked by people. This is a story that I think is long overdue coming out. This is something that if you listen to the Bongino show, which I do a couple times a week at least, there was a spy sent to entice George Papadopoulos, who was one of the people indicted within the Mueller investigation. And they basically were trying to get Papadopoulos to talk about certain things that the Trump campaign was doing in the context of things that he needed from people that were ready to spill the beans on him to the FBI. It was basically the most classic example of entrapment that you can get. And I know some people would say, if you look here, if you look at the right side of the screen, you have Najibullah Zazi. who was the New York City subway bomber, and he's being released soon because he served time and apparently he flipped. Now, there have been a few terror suspects over the past 20 years who have been basically enticed into participating in plots that some would say they wouldn't necessarily have pursued if there wasn't a person there to lure them into it, okay? So the question is sometimes, are you trapping somebody by getting a criminal who's about to commit an act and tricking them into trusting you, or are you actually the person who's creating the act and tricking the person into wanting to do it? That is for sure entrapment, but there's a lot of different attitudes towards it. I think that the legal standard becomes a bit murky, but in this case, it's not murky at all. What they were trying to do was basically get Papadopoulos, who was a very tangential and I mean he wasn't a significant part of the campaign, Papadopoulos, and they were trying to get him to commit an illegal act and implicate himself into a would-be international conspiracy just so they could claim that Trump was meeting with foreign agents. And at the time, you have to remember there were things that were leaking out to the media. This was during the election. I'm not talking about afterwards. There were things that were leaking out to the media that Trump has connections to Russia, blah, blah, blah. They were saying things like that. And that was what the intent was. They were trying to paint him as a Russian agent so that he would lose the election. They knew the whole time that there was like nothing of substance behind it. Just like in the past, they'd also alleged things about George Bush Sr. when Clinton was running for office. They were alleging that he had affairs himself. Now, as it turns out, apparently he might have had an affair in the 70s. But it's not like the Clintons care about having affairs. It's really, it's pure total politics. And it comes from a position of absolutely no moral, moral high ground. I mean, what can they say? George Bush Sr., I think, was a horrible president. And I think when basically the media gave him, this worshiping send-off last year when he died, it was pretty revolting. And I think most of the country was pretty nauseous from it. And by the way, who cares now? It's been only a few months if you think about it. So, what else? What else can they ask for than to have had their peace once the election was over? Instead, they concoct this nonsense where they claim, oh, Papadopoulos was meeting with Russian agents or whatever. He ends up getting convicted of lying to the FBI. Like, come on. Stormy's back. Yeah, that's a real scandal, the Stormy scandal, by the way. Think about it. It's a real scandal that people... look at this. Page 6. Pete Davidson runs into Hillary Clinton outside 30 Rock. So, Hillary Clinton, beloved by the mentally ill Saturday Night Live cast. The person who's known on Saturday Night Live for being mentally unstable, his big claim to fame is, oh, I love Hillary Clinton. Please don't chop that up, by the way. But, I have a tattoo of him, all of that. Frater says, apparently the moral high ground wasn't an issue when Bill Clinton raped Juanita Broderick. By the way, it wasn't just raping her. There was apparently a groping incident against Kathleen Willey back in 1994, I believe. And Bill Clinton lied about that incident. To talk about lying, people accuse Barr the Barbarian of doing it. But there's the crabs there. People accuse Barr of being a liar. But if you really think about it, Bill Clinton was alleged by Kathleen Willey to have groped him in one of the White House rooms. I think it was the White House library, the Oval Office library, or maybe it was the Oval Office. There's a room off of the side. Have to go back and look which one it was. And they were saying, well, that's kind of nonsense. I mean, why, and how can you prove it? but she alleged it wasn't the first time she'd hit on her. In fact, she claimed that while he was campaigning for president in 1992, and she was kind of a fundraiser for him, along with her husband. I think his name was Ed Willie. So he actually called her up from his hotel room in Virginia, where they lived. Okay, they lived in Virginia, and he was a Democratic politician, and she'd been basically, I think she was his second wife, and she basically said that Bill Clinton called her up and basically asked her to bring him chicken soup to his hotel room, which was like I don't know, like 90 miles away. It was like pretty far from where she was in Virginia, in the middle of the night, because he was feeling a little under the weather. So Clinton basically said, well, that never happened. So then they took the pen register, which is, everybody talks about, oh, phone calls, there's phone conversations, whatever, the Trump investigation and Michael Flynn. All they had was, I think, was the pen register, which is just the list of phone calls and phone numbers and the times. And it said that Bill Clinton's hotel room had been, there was a call between him and Kathleen Willey, so he lied about it. Troopergate. Yeah, absolutely. I'm talking to, Frater knows the same things that I do. Exactly. These are he basically did this stuff literally all the time, and he just thought because he'd gotten away with it for so long, he'd just lie and pretend it never happened. That was Bill Clinton. And if you think about it, Bill Clinton was a much worse criminal than anything that they claim Donald Trump is. I'm not talking about worse in terms of more immoral. I don't think you guys are, you're interested in morality lessons here. I'm talking about the dumber criminal. He was dumb. He thought, oh, nobody's going to catch me. I've screwed all these women, and literally like half of the state of Arkansas was screwed by me, but nobody will ever know, right? You never calculated that people would be like thrilled to know about like who the president's banging. Of course. It was pretty easier when you're governor of Arkansas because, almost nobody ever goes there. So nobody would care. He should have just stayed governor and we would have been a better country for it. My favorite memory of Hillary is her in Costco toilet paper aisle signing her half-price book. Did that actually happen? There needs to be massive lawsuits against these social media giants for the censorship witch hunt. I like when she filleted faces for Huma. What does that mean? Anyway, so moving on. Yeah, there was an agent named Azra Turk who, I don't know if she was affiliated with the FBI, but she was working on behalf of this Stefan Halper, and Papadopoulos is publishing it in his own book. He's talked to Dan Bongino. He talked to him last year. He talked to Michael Tracy about a week and a half ago. And basically, Papadopoulos is going to essentially, he already is making it clear that this entire investigation was a huge joke. Okay, and what are they going to say? Guess what they're going to say? Don't believe him. He was convicted of lying to the FBI. Well, why would he? These are the same people, the Democrats, by the way, that were telling you to believe the testimony of Michael Cohen, who's going to prison for perjury and all sorts of shit like that, which is worse than lying to the FBI. And by the way, if you're a lawyer, it's worse. Papadopoulos, I don't believe, is a lawyer. If I'm not mistaken, well, maybe he was. I don't remember. But, Michael Cohen is going to prison for all sorts of crap, including lying under oath. In the book, Papadopoulos recounts how Turk contacted him shortly after he arrived in London by sending a text message that said, "Let's meet for a drink. I'm looking forward to meeting you." Papadopoulos said he wasn't sure if the message was suggestive until he arrived at the bar Turk had picked out for them. It was it was definitely suggestive. Azra Turk is a vision right out of central casting for a spy flick. She's a sexy bottle blonde in her 30s, and she isn't shy about showing her curves as if anyone could miss them. She's a fantasy's fantasy, he wrote. But within 5 minutes, the book said, Turk began grilling Papadopoulos about the Trump campaign. She wants to know, are we working with Russia? I don't know what you were talking about, I say with a nervous laugh. Her question is creepy, he wrote. But Turk keeps pushing and puts her hand on Papadopoulos' arm, telling him he's more attractive than his pictures suggested. And look at that face here. Papadopoulos, Trump aide who lied to FBI, plans to run for office. That would be interesting. Bold look at Halper and his involvement in shit. No, I know about that. I do know that Halper was spying on behalf of, I guess, Reagan in 1980 against Jimmy Carter. But, I guess tough. What am I supposed to say? Halper is an operative, not an informant. Yeah, I guess when, people decide, the intelligence agencies decide they don't like somebody, they employ somebody like Stephen Halper. Then I'm gonna talk a little bit about Stephanie Kelton. So she is this person who is now the main economic advisor for Bernie Sanders, and she believes in this crap called modern monetary theory. And the idea behind modern monetary theory is okay. So if you're a modern monetary theory person and you're thinking I'm going to basically wave it off in like a couple sentences and not do it justice, tough. Go fuck yourself. Because that essentially what it means is print all the fucking money you want. It doesn't matter. We can print as much you can take money out of your ass and it won't matter. Because money is fake. They don't believe money actually has any value. And in a certain sense, think about it. Money's only value is really this, it's attendant to public confidence in it. If people have no confidence in the currency, of course it's going to collapse. That's why we have currency markets. What's this? They've created a book on Mueller report. It is perhaps more slanted views. Lesbian. Is she actually a lesbian? I don't know. Let me look that up. But in any case, you have her sitting across from Jane Sanders, and she was working with the Sanders Institute. So Bernie Sanders had a nonprofit so-called think tank that was, all they were trying to do was go and throw shade on the Republican plans and whatever. But the fact is that the Sanders Institute barely got off the ground because people started to object, and they said, why is it that Bernie Sanders' stepson was earning $100,000 for an institute that raised only about $730,000, I think it raised just a little over, if you do the math here, a little over $1,100,000. So I grudge scissor her. I have to look that up. Is that true? Is she one of the daughters of Bilitis, as they call them? Because if she is, I might have to make an endorsement. Whatever. I think she is kind of a fox. Stephanie Kelton. Let's see here. Or are they talking about? I think they were talking about Huma Abedin, not. Are you guys talking about Huma Abedin and Hillary Clinton, or am I? You can yawn instead of cough. Who are you talking about being a lesbian? Are you talking about Stephanie Kelton, or are you talking about Huma Abedin and Hillary Clinton? Because I don't understand what you're talking about. But yeah, people were criticizing them. They were basically, they were making a lot of money off of this institute that was supposedly doing amazing work, but they were raising the money from some of these organizations like National Nurses United, which is one of the few unions that supports Bernie Sanders, the Healthy Housing Foundation, and Our Revolution. So it's all basically a money funnel. Okay, Our Revolution, by the way, also a lot of controversy over it because of Nina Turner and some of the other clowns that are there. Jeff Weaver was the leader for a while, and nobody liked him. So yeah, I would say this is what I'm thinking right now. The Bernie Sanders movement is of course dependent very much on his force of personality. I don't think that when the campaign really starts in earnest and you're going to see, these debates or whatever, I don't think that his organization is going to be as cohesive as he needs it to be. And, this is, again, you guys know, I think Bernie Sanders is a piece of shit, but I try to give the most like ridiculous. I don't like to be ridiculous when I talk about my predictions. If somebody has like a good campaign, I admit it, even if I don't like the candidate. That's why, for example, I think Andrew Yang is an interesting candidate. I think he'll go far. I think he'll go far in terms of like earning more votes than you would think he would at the beginning. With Bernie Sanders, you have to remember his campaign's being basically run by a Center for American Progress shill, Faiz Naik. So we're talking about really a candidate whose entire campaign is flawed from the beginning. You're not going to see him necessarily be able to bring together the progressive branch and the centrist branch of the party. In fact, I'm seeing really, I don't know if you guys agree, so, answer in the chat, I'm seeing the future development of a schism. It's already probably started, if you think about it. But there's going to be a schism between the Bernie branch and the Tulsi branch of the progressive movement. It's not hard to see. You see the people who are much more anti-interventionist supporting Tulsi Gabbard, and you see the people who mostly care about winning and getting votes. They support Bernie Sanders. You're going to see a little bit of a division like that between the TYT type channels and the breakaways, the Jimmy Dores and things like that. And I don't know if Jimmy Dore is going to fit. I don't know if he's going to turn completely on Bernie Sanders, but I could certainly see him supporting Tulsi Gabbard a lot more. So, with that in mind, we'll turn to England for a second. Apparently, there's already been these local elections over there in Britain, and Labour and the Tories are losing. The Liberal Democrats have gained some seats, probably partly as a result of people not voting at all. But yeah, the Conservative Party is they're basically a complete and total clusterfuck right now. The Tories promised Brexit. They said that they would carry it out. And then they didn't, and they made all sorts of excuses. And this is the lesson that has to be learned about politicians who they demand the public trust, and then they don't expect consequences when they betray it. And, that can happen to anybody. That can happen to, it's basically what happened to Hillary Clinton. It could happen to Donald Trump down the line. So if you don't trust the voters, they're going to turn on you, at least in a system where votes matter. That's about it. Let me see what else there is. Rapper says there is already a civil war within the Democratic Party. They're attacking Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders and Bernie all to push their candidate. Yeah, but I'm saying that within the progressive part of the party, you're going to see a real division between the Bernie and the Tulsi people. Dave says, I want my $27 back. Well, I hope, I think Dave probably saw me on the Hard Bastard yesterday. I can't believe these idiots who are still donating money to Bernie Sanders, that's going to end up going to the DNC after Sanders is shafted this time, because everything is through Act Blue again. They haven't really done anything to address it. Sanders just claims, we worked very hard and we the party owes us and whatever. Who cares? you need to get assurance. You need to get more than assurances. You need to get actual changes, and they didn't get changes. The super delegates rule is going to basically be, what they're going to do now, because there are so many candidates. And by the way, Bill de Blasio is supposed to enter the race, or he's considering still entering the race. That's what's so ridiculous. By the way, hit the like button, guys. There's enough of you over there to do it now. Just hit it. But anyway, Bernie Sanders, he is going to end up going into a contested convention, and he's not going to have enough votes to win in the first round, even if he is the leading vote getter, which at the moment it looks like he might not be. And then you're going to see him, basically collapse, because in the second round, the super delegates are allowed to vote, and the establishment candidate is going to earn those super delegates, and he or she is probably going to get a big chunk of these other delegates. Bernie made me a Republican after being a registered Democrat since 19. I mean, you don't have to join a party. I don't really believe in joining parties. Bong rip, thanks. I actually can't smoke weed. I get drug tested, and I've never was a huge weed smoker. I'm sure I'm making a compelling denial there, right? Anyway, yeah, please like the video. I see some of you are. Share the video, subscribe to the channel, and really think about it. Do we want to start an anti-censorship warrior movement? I think that those of us here, we can start talking about it. I'll put my email in the chat if you guys have ideas. And, we should get it started. It's not about really a leadership. It's about just a mindset. We'll start really talking about little things people can do to fight back against censorship. The one that I came up with today was that if you see employees of big tech companies come into your place of business, you deny them service. Okay, you say to them, well, your censorship says that you get to tell people what they can say on your platform. Well, okay, I decide whether you can eat here. Go eat at Applebee's. That's about it. Please like, share, subscribe. Subscribe to me on Gab at Starscream85. Subscribe to me on Minds.com at Chef Leopard, as well as on BitChute at Chef Leopard. And I'll talk to you later. Have a great night and a happy weekend.